This is Mind Raid with the Koch brothers. Hey guys, welcome to Mind Raid. Joined by our good friend Juan. Juan, welcome to Mind Raid. Juan just kind of wandered in here and didn't plan on taking part of this deal, but we're glad to have him. Juan, tell the crowd where you're at. You are an accomplished martial arts fighter. You train in North Carolina.
Originally, I'm from Puerto Rico. I'm a black belt in Kempo Karate. I met you guys, 2 years? 2 ago. Yep. 2.5 years ago, whatever. 2 years, and I'm a fighter as well. I'm a pro fighter. I met Keoni and Erik over in North Carolina. I'm been affiliated with Duke Rufus, and that's how we kind of hit it off. And he was training at a Core Fitness MMA over in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we hit it off. These guys.
Well, yeah, the reason we hit it off, I think, is because you guys were fucking awesome. Really, to be completely honest,
good hosts.
Like super good hosts. We kept hearing Southern hospitality, and you guys went well over and beyond what you needed to go, and that's shit. Like, I don't forget shit like that, you know. So I appreciate that. We're gonna talk about aliens. And we've been talking about wanting to talk. This is such a broad, vast subject. Me and my brother talk about it. Bro, I don't know what you think about this, but here's what I'm concerned about with this talk. We're not going to be able to get enough said.
No.
There's no way that we're going to be able to discuss this in length the way that we should.
Unless you guys want a 3-hour podcast.
Yeah, and they don't. They want
Who knows?
They want 15. We want 3 hours. They want 15 minutes on the way to work. I get it. Maybe we will have to do more than one, but we were talking just a little bit ago, and we were talking, what are we going to do? We had no plan for this. We should. We never do. We never have any plans for anything. And we wanted to start with the vastness of space itself. We were lucky to have a mom that tried to explain this to us and put it into words. And Mom used to tell me about how, when you flip on the light switch, how long it takes for that light to get from the bulb to the wall is the speed of light. Mm-hmm. And, of course, when you're a kid, it's instantaneous.
Yeah.
You don't see it. You can't perceivably see that light going through the air or whatever. Mm-hmm. When she put into my mind the idea that you could drive a car, let's say, right, and turn on the headlights, and if you were going at the speed of light, you would keep pace with the light. The light would never get ahead of you. Right. You wouldn't see beams. You would see like a finite end almost to this light. That blew my mind, especially when I found out how fast the speed of light actually is. Do you know, I don't know, but how big is the universe? How many light years does it take to get across the entire universe as we know it?
Well, for what we know, it's infinite. You know, we don't know of an end to the universe. A lot of people don't believe in aliens just because of the proof, right? Well, for what we know, we don't have proof that aliens exist. To me, it's mathematically improbable that just by sheer numbers of how big we know the universe is of now, and that we still don't know how much it continues, just off sheer numbers, it's highly unlikely that there isn't other life.
I've always thought the same thing. I've always thought that life was amazing. And it was an incredible thing that when all the perfect conditions come together to create life on a planet like Earth, that's really rare and really special. But once I tried to wrap my mind around how big the universe was, I went, well, it's not that inconceivable.
No.
There could be life somewhere else. And in fact, if there's life at the bottom of the sea, under immense pressure, no sunlight, total blackness, right? Pressures nothing can withstand, so to speak. There's life under the first layer of the Earth's crust, and there's bacteria that exists in places that you would never think. The
that
Arctic,
we couldn't survive.
The Arctic,
right?
Why would I think that somewhere out in that vastness, that huge expanse, like you said, is it so hard to assume that there's not like bacteria?
Right.
I think people want to assume that there's these grays and these, and there probably is. But the idea that there's like bacteria somewhere out there proves
that there's life.
That there's life somewhere
Yeah.
else. And
Yeah.
what that means is the narrative that we've been told all along might not necessarily be accurate all the time.
It's a hard thing for us to say whether it's possible or not because variables are different. Cockroaches, for example. If a nuclear war was to go down and we wiped all humans off the face of the earth, cockroaches would still be around.
And probably some other stuff too.
Yeah, there are things that can survive in climates we can't. And putting that along with sheer numbers, I'm not, obviously a lot of planets are going to be dead. There's not going to be life. But that's not to say that the only planets have life on them are like Earth. You know what I'm saying? We're under this, but a lot of people are under the idea that it's got to be like Earth if there's going to be life, which I don't think's true at all. No. I think, like I said, there's different variables and there's different things. There's different species. There are things that can live in certain climates. And you bring up the ocean. That's the same thing. We couldn't survive down there. It's impossible. We can't. But there's stuff that does thrive down there, and they live in that climate. That's the only climate they can really live in.
We've talked about this before. Yeah. To me, look no further than the ocean to know that aliens are real.
Yeah, man.
That somewhere out there's not some sea with some squiggly shit floating around in it. Some horrible, scary shit. You know what I mean?
I just think there's so many variables. I think a lot of people think that it needs to be like the perfect temperature, the perfect, there needs to be water. They need
could be fucking radioactive.
There's
bacteria that live in radioactive.
Right. So the variables are a lot different. When it first comes to aliens, and when I speak to people who don't believe in aliens, I don't get straight into the like FBI files and what we know we're hiding all these. More from a logical standpoint, from what we know, what we can take as humans, it's just very unrealistic to think that there isn't other life in such a vast universe.
The vast universe that you speak of per Google. The proper distance, the distance as would be measured at a specific time, including the present, between Earth and the edge of the observable universe is 46 billion light years, making the diameter of the observable universe about 93 billion light years. That means that if you were on... Okay, buckle up. The speed of light is 186,282 miles per second. In miles per hour, light speed is, a lot. About 670,616,629 miles per hour. So if you wanted to travel from one edge of the universe, you would have to go 186,282 miles per second for 96 billion years.
To get to the...
For 96 billion years, you would have to travel faster than mankind has ever come close and maybe ever will come close to traveling. Mm-hmm. How can you tell me that you know shit about shit?
Yeah.
If we know that.
Yeah.
How can you tell me that somewhere out there in that abyss that you can't fathom, we're not even talking about like weird shit like black holes and shit, that there's not something, that we're the only ones? Give me a break.
Yeah.
The fact that you could travel that far for your entire observable lifetime and never come close to seeing it. If you were traveling at the speed of light, started right now, you'd get nowhere at all in the universe. Yeah. You would. I don't even know if you'd get much past a galaxy. I honestly have no idea.
Yeah.
That's really hard for me to wrap my mind around. Yeah. You ever see those things where it's like a picture of the Milky Way and it says you are here and it's this tiny little dot and that dot is like our whole solar system?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Every star that has a gravitational pull most likely has planets. So when you see those big clusters of just white and their little pixelization in there is a star, and that has a solar system. So even averaging it out, how many planets are in our solar system? We got.
Depends on if we're counting Pluto.
Are we counting Pluto?
Or Planet X or whatever people are talking about now.
Yeah, but let's say a base, even if 5 planets, right? If we gotta go on an average, and that's on the lower end, 5 planets to every star. How many stars? We don't even fucking know. We don't even know. So having those planets, and this is my argument too. If it was the case where for life like us, intelligent life, to live, have to be under a certain amount of circumstances, and it has to be a planet just like ours. Even if the odds out of all those planets, if we're 1 in a million, are still a lot of those fucking planets. There's still a ton of Earths out there. You know what I'm saying?
Somewhere along the line, some shit was going to happen. Some miraculous concoction was going to happen. And it might be so far away from here that we'll never know about it.
Yeah.
But it almost has to. There's also another theory out there that's pretty provocative that says before a civilization would ever make contact with another civilization, there's too high a chance that they would die out and that they would destroy each other before they would ever get there. That's based on probably, it makes sense. It makes sense from a numbers perspective, but I think that that's a theory that exists with the information that we have at this present time. Did you guys ever see the new Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yep.
So he talks about the cosmic calendar, and he likens the entire universe's time to one calendar year, right? Mm-hmm. So the Big Bang, that's January 1st, right?
Yeah.
Humans show up on December 31st at midnight. Or like 11:58 or 11 or some crazy shit like that. Mm-hmm. We have, on a cosmic scale or a universal scale, humans have barely seen a blip on the radar, right? Yeah. All of the birth of the universe, all of the expansion of the planets in the universe, for all of that time, humans were only on that cosmic calendar at the very stroke of midnight on the last day. We have not been on this planet or in the universe for any amount of time. Mm-hmm. And this universe is so vast. Like, we're just now being able to peer into it with like special tools that we've made.
Yep.
What if there's a civilization out there 2 trillion years ago?
That's what I'm saying. And the chances of that are very, very high.
You would think.
Very, very high.
You would think that they're very high. A lot of people wouldn't think that they're very high. A lot of people think that we live on a flat Earth and there's a giant conspiracy for no reason to convince everybody that we're on a disc instead of a ball. Yeah. I don't know why anybody would give a shit, but whatever. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the government. They've almost admitted that they're keeping secrets about aliens. Yeah. Why? I mean, we know why, but what reason can you justify to the public that you are harboring secrets that are potentially the largest discoveries in the history? Not potentially, they are.
Control.
Yeah, lockdown.
Control, because people have an ability where when there's a crisis or we're not the big fish in the pond, people work together. You look at how war-ridden our world is. We've been fighting since the beginning of our existence. If it came out tomorrow that 100%, all the government, the world came together, and the UN, the United States, everybody came out and said, "Yep, aliens exist. We know about them. We've been talking to them." People, just like people being afraid of the dark, they're afraid of what they can't see, would come together. It would no longer be a battle for the planet. We would now know that there's other things out there that are bigger than us. Beyond us. And I think people would actually work together more than they do now. The one problem with the human race is corruption. I think power and keeping everything here at home. People, they want to keep control of what they have. And I think as soon as that gets out, you would have a lot of people freak out. But in that freaking out, I think it would be something afterwards. People would actually come together.
So let's talk about that control. How how does a government that harbors secrets of extraterrestrial life, how do they actually control the people by harboring those secrets? Why does that control the people?
Because, well, it goes back to our beginning thought process on this. There's a lot of people, and I'm surprised. There's a lot of people, even for what we know, the vastness of the universe, just how crazy it is, how many planets, how many solar systems there are, that still believe there's no way there's aliens. I almost feel like people are raised to believe that we are so special. We are so special, and
Well, that's indoctrinated into a lot of religious theory.
Right. And that's another thing with religion. Religion, they can believe in something that they really don't see, all the same stuff with aliens. But they think it's blasphemy when you believe in extraterrestrials. They believe in a lot of stuff they can't see, they can't prove. And what's their argument? You just gotta
have faith.
You gotta have faith, right? Well, this isn't even faith.
Usually it's specific faith too.
Right,
it's
right.
not like just faith. It's my faith.
We're using what we know. We're using numbers. This is stuff we know, and we've progressed quite a bit. I mean, for us, we've progressed a lot for the short time we've been here, but we're getting to a point where we're realizing we really are small. A lot of people don't want to believe it because it's scary to them. It's scary to them to think that they aren't really in control.
Top of the food chain too. Yeah.
Well, we're not top of the food chain.
Here, I've thought about this a lot, and here's what I think in terms of a way that a government can exact control. The American public, or any public, was made aware of and verified extraterrestrial life. It would rewrite human history. It would rewrite the history of the universe, and it would change everything.
Yeah.
To withhold information like that, even if you were to do it, say, this is for your best interest, you can't handle this information that your government can handle, right? Like we pay you assholes to represent us, but you're going to tell us we can't handle the information.
Right.
Whatever. This information would be the most significant technological improvements in human history. Mm-hmm. And this would be a motive for a government. If we'd come into contact with an alien craft that had some kind of technology that we couldn't understand, but we could reverse engineer, we could solve the world's problems. Mm-hmm. We could solve the world's energy problems. But if we solved the world's energy problems, we would cut the world's energy holders' budgets. Mm-hmm. So if you control this technology, you can slowly deliver it to a dumbed down populace. And there's people that believe that you can almost, and this is tinfoil hat stuff for everybody, you can almost trace this incredibly huge technological boom. Mm-hmm. After the 40s and 50s, mm-hmm. during the nuclear age, when Roswell apparently or supposedly happened and was covered up, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. I don't know if that's true or if it's just that we're hitting a point in human history where technology is doing this and just it's spiraling up. There's evidence of that as well. If I tell you I know there's aliens and I've talked to them, then you might want to talk to them too. You know what I'm saying? And you have a right to it as not a human being. You have a right as a citizen of the universe to know that these things exist. The government has absolutely no right to tell you that you don't have a right to be aware of something so profoundly important. The reason for controlling this information is simple. They can control the technology. They can slowly disseminate the technology at a high cost to an ignorant public that doesn't know how to use it or how to control use of it. And you can withhold and say, oh, well, I'm going to make sure that the money that is in, like, let's say this oil conglomerate, I'm going to make sure that you get your return. While we use this top secret technology for military purposes, you can use it for all kinds of nefarious shit. But if you withhold the information willingly from the people, in my opinion, you're a present danger to the American public, because you're keeping secrets from them that could save the planet itself, right? Yeah. But I think the main thing is money.
Yeah.
I think the main thing comes down to money and power, and there's a good reason. They say that they don't want people fearful, like that. I have heard that theory. Oh, well, you wouldn't want to tell because everybody would freak out. That's based on the War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
A radio broadcast that happened. I'd have to look up the year. The War of the Worlds by, I think Orson Welles read it. It was read as a news telecast. The aliens are attacking in Mars and blah, 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 or in Washington, D.C., and they're blowing up the Capitol. And everybody thought it was real. So everybody across the country listening to their radios freaked out. And we're like, oh my God, like aliens are actually attack. They bought it hook, line, and sinker. It was on the radio, bro.
Yeah.
They didn't even see it. They just started calling family members on their rotary phones going, shit,
Yeah.
the aliens are burning us alive. It was just a show. So I read into this a little bit, and I'm almost positive. You quote me on it and tear me up if I'm wrong. But I'm pretty sure the Rockefellers had a study commissioned on mass panic after this radio telecast went down. And that is in the family archives, guarded archives under their house. And like they haven't shared it with hardly anybody. But this, I also found it interesting that this telecast that they studied, the panic of, happened in their tower, in Rockefeller Tower. But they studied the mass panic, and many other people did, that ensued after this. And it got me thinking, like, people look at the TV now and they're like, that's true. Everything I see on TV is true, as long as my eyes believe what I see. And with CGI being what it is right now, you could manufacture almost anything and put it on the news, and simpletons would believe it without even thinking twice about whether it was real or not. That's where we're at technologically. It's kind of scary. I think it's improbable that there's not something out there in the universe. But I want to talk about something that I've been thinking about, and I cannot get it off my mind. And it's something that, bro, you and me have talked about a lot, and that's natural selection. Yeah. Natural selection, the law of natural selection, being that the weakest usually are culled off from the strong. And, you know, as animals evolve, there's this process of natural selection where the strongest survive and thrive and continue the line forward. And it's hard to argue with it, because there's evidence of it all over the place. There's evidence of it in human behavior and life. There's evidence, obviously, all over the animal kingdom. But I have this theory that I want to share. And this theory is the theory of cosmic natural selection. So many people have said, well, look, if there's these aliens with all of these technologies and they can see us, why wouldn't they come down and say hi? And you know exactly where I'm going with this. Yeah. Yep. Natural selection is why. My theory is this: if an intelligent species has any hope of getting off of whatever proverbial rock that they reside upon, right? From primitive beings to advanced beings. If they have any hope, these intelligent creatures have to band all together. They have to use the collective resources of mind and body and the resources of their home planet to have any hope to develop technology to get them off that planet. You're going to get blown to smithereens eventually. Yeah. By some giant asteroid, yep, or by an exploding star or imploding star, a supernova. Yep. Eventually, the shit's going down cosmically, and you need to find a way to transcend wherever you came from, to become godly almost, right? To get away and to understand, to prevent your own cosmic mortality is some pretty crazy shit. That will not happen with nations. No. That will not happen with divided religion and warring religion. It cannot happen because we don't have the resources to make it happen if we're divided. That's cosmic natural selection. The reason that no aliens would come down here is because we would be a clear and present danger to the entire universe if they gave us their shit. Power. Yeah. They're sitting up there looking at us warring right now. Yep. For centuries, bombing little kids and shit. Do you think they're just going to go, hey guys, you want some tech? Yeah. Knowing that we could literally take, what if they've existed for 1 trillion years? Yeah. And they're just going to come hand some monkeys that fight laser beams and shit? No. They're not going to do that. What they're going to do is this. Sit down and just watch. They're going to watch and wait, and they'll fly around and they'll let us know, and they'll try to pique our interest and see if maybe we demand social change and whether we hold our leaders accountable or demand truth. But they're not going to help us out as long as we're like killing babies with drones and shit. They're going to let us burn, bro. Yep. And they're going to go up there and go, well, it's sad, but like, that's the way it is. We can't allow that. We can't allow that species to ascend.
You know, growing up, you watch a lot of alien invasion movies and stuff like that. That used to kind of be my thought, you know, just naturally. And that comes from, you know, invasions or they're stronger, right? So they're going to come take our resources. What fucking resources do they need that we have? Right. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And if they needed resources, we'd be gone already.
In 1 second.
Yeah, we'd be done.
They'd go, hey, we're going to take your planet and you're all dead.
Yeah, that's it.
Graham Hancock, have you heard of him? So he's an archaeologist who's been kind of scorned because he researches archaeology that doesn't have explanation.
Yeah.
Like cities that are buried under the sea. Some archaeological sites that archaeologists have no traditional explanation for, and they're just like, well, I can't explain this, so I don't know what it is. There's evidence to suggest that it potentially even advanced human life, as aided by something, potentially, existed well before what we were told. Like the theory of Atlantis. And there's a lot of evidence out there that you really can't not pay attention to. There might not be an explanation for it. It might not have enough hieroglyphics for you to make a language, but it's there.
Yeah.
And it reminds me that the Earth has a tendency of burying its own history.
Yeah.
The Earth itself changes so much with volcanoes and earthquakes and calamity and erosion that eventually everything kind of wears away.
Recycled.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that the goal should be for a species to get off the planet.
Yeah.
And we should be doing everything that we could to do that. And it's like, why do we have all of these? We have an international space station, but why do we have all these different countries spending all this different money on their own shit?
Yeah.
When we could make a super fucking rocket, an international super rocket with an international crew and go further and longer than anybody's ever went before. Why aren't we doing that shit?
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, we don't have money in the budget, but we have money to blow the shit out of countries.
Yeah. A lot of money.
And kill archaeology and resources and people and create.
Now, this is more tinfoil hat shit. Conspiracy theory. But honestly, what I believe, and this 100%, you could think I'm crazy, is I think we are a descendant. We are a half-breed of another race that's not from here.
Where I was going with this is going to be a stretch to tie into that, but it's on the same wavelength. I didn't realize that fungi and funguses can live in the vacuum of space. Meaning that, and like the more I research and know about fungi, the more crazy. There's this this documentary that I'm dying to see called Fantastic Fungi, but it's got illustrations of how fungus like reaches its tentacles into everything on Earth, and that it can I've read that it can exist in a vacuum. So you've heard the stoned ape theory, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I think that there's a possibility, and this seems so far-fetched that people are going to think we're fucking nuts. God.
Hey, it's alien, so fuck it.
Yeah. So I think that this potentially could be the seed of intelligent life. This could be something that has been sent through the universe, this fungi, this simple organism that breaks things down, that makes people trip out and have hallucinogenic visions, is potentially something that is supposed to survive the vacuum of space and get blown around and seed potentially intelligent life. Yeah. Whatever animals exist on said planet, if this stoned ape theory has any credibility, and I know people think it's a stretch, but it makes sense. These simple creatures, or these creatures that are learning more complex ways to communicate, maybe they were ape-like in ways, take this substance routinely over the course of 100,000 years, and it changes the chemical makeup of their brain. It changes the way they live. They start putting on, warmer clothes because they understand things. They get less hair. I think something like that very well could happen. And to say it just all kind of happened and we tripped into it, okay, maybe, but it makes more sense to me that evolution happened on a planet and will continue to happen, and there was huge die-offs, and there were huge potential extinctions, like extinction level events where almost everything died and almost nothing lived. We're a remnant of that. When you think about, we've talked about how crazy it is to think about all the little things that had to go into your life, your existence, how your mother and father had to meet, and all of these things had to come into play just the right way. Think about that on a cosmic scale.
Right.
Think about how precious your life is. If, let's say that we're bacteria, right? And the pool is rocking. And these bacteria are having a great time and they're multiplying, and then eventually we have salamanders, and then they crawl out, and lizards, all this shit. Down the line, humans show up. Think about that. Like, the only scope of reference that we have in time is our own lifetime. And to think about how blessed we are to be alive, is crazy in the context of just our lifetime.
Yeah.
But if it is true that we can trace all origin of life on this planet back to a single cell or a very small group of single-celled organisms from here or from somewhere else, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That's a crazy thing. That's a crazy miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't think about stuff like that. It's like, oh, well, it's just, it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like, no, if you're alive, it's amazing. And I think there's this like separation between like religion and science where people of faith are like, your life is a miracle. Like they say it's a miracle because it's a miracle that God gave you life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. If you want to call it God, fine.
Yeah.
It is a miracle that we exist anywhere in the universe, because think about how much of the universe, that blackness that we talked about, the billions of years traveling at the speed of light where there is absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Where it's just dark and desolate and black and dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
No, and I mean, shit, that's another, I thought about it because I didn't hear about that until you told me about it. And I mean, that totally makes sense. I could see that, but that's still, to me, that's still something from another origin. That's alien.
It's hard to sell me on. We just were here. It's
Right.
hard to sell me on that. There was just a bunch of chemicals, and then like single-celled organisms just like came to be.
Right.
But
Well,
there's that. For me, it just doesn't quite make sense.
There's a lot of people that have said that they've been abducted, and now not giving them all the credibility that everybody's saying they've been abducted have actually gone through this experience. There's a lot of similarities in what they say. They speak telepathically. They can actually talk through brain waves, and they don't have really a mouth, and they don't speak. They always say the same thing. They're humanoid. They got hands, they got arms, they got legs, and they got a head. They got two eyes.
Do you remember my first theory on the Greys? Because the people that talk about the Greys, and they talk about these extraterrestrials, they do say the same things, that they talk telepathically and stuff like that. So when I was a kid, the idea of somebody talking, a being talking to me with their mind, was crazy. It was science fiction. It was like, wow. In fact, telepathic communication was one of the highest levels of science fiction. That was one of the biggest themes. Like, wow, if a being could talk to you with their mind would be so powerful, right? So now,
Are you talking about
well,
raising our technology?
what I'm talking about is I saw that as science fiction. Now that I'm older, I'm seeing it real close to what I'm looking at with human beings. I'm seeing it real close to a point where I can almost think something and communicate it to you, right? So we're probably within 30 to 40 years where potentially I might be able to have a chip in my head, and it monitors my brain waves and allows me to put together communicative messages or whatever to somebody without saying anything at all. I can already do it by text, but I can't do it with thought. That day's coming.
Yeah.
When that day comes, my old little kid science fiction idea will be blown out of the water by human beings. We haven't even been around that long.
Yeah.
If there's anything anywhere else that's done this, I don't know, million years ago, can you imagine how advanced they are? Can you imagine how advanced any species is that actually did work together and got off their planet? They would be so advanced. We couldn't probably comprehend it, but my old theory on the Greys was this. Because I saw the way technology was going, and it was ever improving, and the way communication was getting better, my theory on the Greys was that they're us in the future.
Yeah.
Coming back to monitor the mistakes of the past.
Well, I agree. If you look at Grace, like I said, they don't look like us, like the way we look as humans. Long, skinny bodies, and they have a huge head.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what they look like? They look like human beings that would have been bioengineered and bioadvanced with some kind of nanotechnology and in enormous thinking mechanisms that didn't even allow them to speak.
Yes.
They have mouths that they don't use, or jaws that seem like they should be mouths there, but they don't use them because they don't need to.
Yeah.
right? So it's all
Well, and that goes back to
human
evolution,
advancement.
right? If we did evolve from an ape, very big, strong, physical, way stronger than humans, right? Now look at us. We don't have as much hair.
Most of us.
Right? As a gorilla or an ape, but we're smarter on that level than an ape. We go to a gray. Well, if a gray has the ability to telepathically talk to you, if they have the technology to go through space in the snap of a finger, there's no need for physical strength. They don't have any need for it. No. For a race to get so advanced to where they can do the things they can do or live as long as they do, they have to do it peacefully. I don't think they can do it fighting each other.
No.
You know?
Because they'll go extinct before they get a chance to get off.
What do you think? If you saying that stuff, right, makes me think maybe they are actually figuring out how they become who they are, and we are just like an experiment. Okay, let's see how we started. Let's see how we became who we are.
Right.
By seeing us, watching
you know
us,
what I said? I said that what if they're, what if it's a class? What if it's a school class in the future of aliens to go, hey kids, you want to see how bad we fucked up and almost went extinct?
Exactly.
And if you put yourself in their alien-like shoes, and you go, look, if they can do what they can do, and they can travel this far, they're well above anything that we could possibly comprehend. Sure. Mm-hmm. They're going to know the precise moment when we're ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they're going to, in that moment, sadly, to my fellow humans, might not come if you don't get your fucking shit together. Mm-hmm. That's kind of I think that's kind of the whole point of why I'm doing a podcast, because I'm just tired of people not getting their shit together.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about individual people. I'm talking about the people of the entire planet Earth, the world. We're past this, like, national divide and like all these people are so different and they're scary. No, they're not. All people are the same. They're just trying to provide for their family. The only thing that seems to consistently drive wedges in between people and kill billions of people, millions of people, is the government. Is governments themselves. And I'd like to see the world start working together, especially knowing what we know now, knowing what we know about how big the universe is, knowing what we know about what we don't know. It makes sense to work together.
Just knowing that one thing, how big the universe is, I feel like should be enough for people to come together and be like, hey, maybe we should start working together.
I know.
But this goes back to control and power. There's a lot of people that I can't have talks like this with a lot of people because they get uncomfortable. They don't even want to hear it, and that's not their fault. That's the way they were raised. If you're not willing to open your mind and entertain that stuff.
Yeah, perspective's everything too. And I've heard astronauts talk about this, how going off the Earth or into orbit and looking back at the Earth changes the way they see everything. They see the Earth not now as this planet that harbors all of these individual organisms, but they see it as a living entity, and they feel this interconnectedness and this peace when they see it. How can you not listen to the perspective of people that have been off of the planet? They should be some of those people that you listen to. And on that note, a lot of those people that have been off the planet have said after their careers have ended that they saw shit up there.
Yeah.
Now, these are the people we're supposed to trust. These are people that are trained arguably just as much as anybody on the planet in anything. Astronauts.
There's a Navy pilot, a very respectful one, that says that he, in his practices and flying and stuff, he saw a object that just kept moving from side to side in seconds.
Yeah, bro.
Your trip Wisconsin, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I've been an alien nerd for my whole life. Love Aliens movie, self-admitted. And I wanted so bad to see something. Ever.
Yeah.
More than a shooting star or anything like that. And I saw some really cool shit, like meteor or asteroids or something that were big and colorful and blue and sexy. But I never saw any shit that made me go, whoa, there's aliens. There's proof, And that was kind of a lonely thing for me because I wanted to believe so bad. So we go up to Lake Superior. the Great Lakes up in the North Woods. Where is that, babe at?
Apostle Island.
Apostle Islands. And we're sitting on a boat. We got a Airbnb sailboat, and we're sitting on the deck, and there's like, I don't know, 1,000 wolf spiders all over the deck of this boat. But we're sitting out there, and it's me and Peyton and Ronan and Courtney, and it's dark up there. It's real dark. I would later learn that there's a lot of unidentified flying object sightings up there, but I had no idea at the time. I was just like, stars, dark, this is awesome. And we're looking up there, and I see this little tiny point of light up there, and it's like so high that I can barely see it, but I can see it, and I'm tracking it, and it's going in a straight line, right? And I think it's a plane, right? A commercial plane, and I can barely see it because it's way up at altitude or some shit. But then I'm like, well, it's not blinking, you know? And they blink, but maybe it's so high up, I'm just seeing it in a reflection of, you know, light off of its whatever. And so I keep watching it, and then it stops. And then the only way that I can really describe this is it looked like there was a bolt of lightning in deep, deep space, in a vacuum, and this thing was gone. And I was like, what the fuck was that, right? So I keep looking, and I'm like, that's interesting, but I can't really say for sure what it was, too far away. So then we're looking around, and now more than one of us is seeing them. And where I'm like, hey, look right there and look at that dot. It's moving across the sky, and it's in a straight line. I'm not an aeronautics expert, but I know that it was going way too fucking fast. At that altitude, as high as that thing was, how fast it was moving across the sky, as faint as it was, didn't make any sense to me. But then we noticed there was another one coming from exactly the other direction in a straight line towards it. And they weren't like lined right up. They were just offset a little bit, but they were going exactly the same plane. And I'm like, are these planes? They get fairly close to each other, and then these two flashes of light, deep space. I can't recognize what it is, but these things are gone. Well, a couple times, this happens 2 or 3 times, and at this point I'm like, this is not a coincidence. These things are moving at unnatural speeds. They look like what they're doing is shooting into deep space in so fast that my eye can't read it. Right? I'm thinking that I'm seeing a bolt of lightning, but I think what I'm actually seeing is them move at such a high speed that my eye can't track. And so they look like they're gone. And that's exactly what happens. I see more of these things throughout the night. We all do. And we track them for, I think, 3 or 4 hours. And they do all the same stuff. They're moving in these straight lines, and then whoosh, they're gone. And they're moving. I can tell they're gone, and they're moving. And whatever these objects up there are moving so fast that we don't have any of that shit. We don't have things that can do what these things were doing at that altitude. We just don't. And there were multiple ones flying around. I've read up on some shit that people have posted about stuff like this, and it seemed like these things were, whatever they're doing, they were coasting at a very, 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 very high altitude at no volume whatsoever, and then out of nowhere, they would just disappear, or they would maneuver, and they would move. A couple of them we saw do this type of shit. They go here, and they moved so far that I was like, oh. And I had to look for it, and I'm like, holy shit, how the fuck did it get halfway across the sky, bro? That doesn't make any sense. We don't have shit that can cut like that. Yeah. We just don't. The way that the stuff that I saw moving in the sky was moving, we don't have that shit. And if we do, that shit's being withheld, and if it's being withheld, it shouldn't be. Because that kind of technology, whatever can make a craft move like that, will change the entire planet Earth. And if we're withholding it from the people for military purposes, we're part of an evil empire. So either, and I don't like to jump to conclusions and say I saw aliens, but whatever I saw
was alien to you.
Was alien to me. I've never seen anything, and I've talked to people in aeronautics. I talked to a pilot that used to come to my gym not that long ago. And I said, hey man, I was in, Wisconsin or whatever, and I looked up and I saw some shit, and this is the way it moved, and it didn't make sense to me. And I'm not an aeronautics guy, and I'm not an aviator, but I've seen planes fly enough that it didn't make sense to me. Can you tell me? He's like, no, dude, I've seen shit too. And I've heard multiple pilots say the same thing, that they've seen and even contacted things and had things fucking with them in the air. And nobody wants to talk about it. I'm like, you know how significant this is?
Yeah.
This is the most significant news that we would ever get in human history, is that there's other life.
Me personally, like, I'm not I do believe that there's other stuff out there, but I'm like, all right, whatever. I haven't sat down and started thinking about it. You know, not go crazy. I'll go on with my life. And I think most people do the same, right? And that's probably why they don't want to talk about it. Because you talk to somebody about it and you tell them what you see, like you saw that stuff. People are going to look like you're...
They did too.
Yeah,
they did. And I tried to be super analytical too. Exactly. I was like, I had multiple witnesses, my kids and my wife, right? Said this, we all saw the same thing. And I tried to really, really document, like, this is what I saw. I don't know. I can't say this is aliens. I'm not going to say it's aliens, but I can explain what it is. People wanted, immediately they wanted to like my friend Brent's like, oh, well, did you see some lights in the sky? I'm like, dude, I saw some shit that I've never seen before in my motherfucking life. Yeah. And I'm 100% sure you have not seen this shit. If you saw this shit, you would be wondering what was going on because you've been in the military. So like, usually I get doubt and stuff. But when people kind of like ribbed me a little bit for it, I was like, hey man, fuck you. Yeah. I've been waiting to see some shit like this my whole life, and I'm not even jumping on the gravy train here. I saw some crazy shit. And the reason that we're not demanding more answers from our government and from other world governments is because people like you try to make me feel bad for wondering what the fuck's going on up there. And if all that's going on up there is military drills, let me see it. Yeah. Show it to me. It's not a matter of national security. By the way, I'm a taxpayer. I own you. So I have a right to see this shit, you know? Whatever I saw up there, this is what I take away from it. I don't know what it was. It's too high up to really know. But I know it didn't move like any other kind of aircraft I've ever seen. So either our military or our government has some shit that they're not telling us on purpose. Stuff that is so technologically profound, it could probably help the human race, which makes them my enemy. Or there's fucking aliens up there. That's all I can figure. I don't think they're solar flares or some shit like they've tried to make people buy in the past. So, you know, I haven't seen anything since then, but man, I wanted to. We went up north on our way back from Canada. We stayed at a couple places, and I sat on top of the car one night till 3:00 in the morning. Was terrified I was going to get eaten by a mountain lion. But I looked up for 2 or 3 hours, didn't see shit. Yeah. You know, and most nights I haven't seen anything, but on that night I saw a lot, and I wasn't the only one. And we apparently aren't the only ones that have seen shit. I only wish I had some credible way to track that shit. You know, because I tried, and it was like, you know, you're not going to see shit up there. But hopefully with better technology, like this could kind of come back and beat them up. If this technology continues to improve and we are able to, like, I saw a Samsung phone that could take time-lapse photos of the Milky Way, of the stars. Like on a camera phone, I don't know that much about cameras, but Courtney's like, if it could do that shit, that's pretty impressive because that's low light conditions. If technology continues to improve at this rate in 30 years, what's our cell phone going to do? Yeah. Maybe I'll be able to pick up some shit. Maybe they won't be able to like hide the shit anymore. But it bothers me that there's almost a complete validation of hiding this type of information from the public. When knowing this information, if the government came out tomorrow and said, okay, Juan, here's the deal. Roswell happened. There were little aliens there. We picked them up. They hung out for a while. They gave us some tech. They died. And then we stole their shit and reverse engineered it and sold it to you guys, you suckers, for the last 60 years. But it's true. Aliens are out there.
Filtering it out to you guys little by little.
Right. You would be pissed, but life would go on and you'd go, that's cool because I got Snapchat or whatever. Right? Exactly. But you could handle it. It bothers me that they think that we can't.
And there are a lot of people that are dumbed down that wouldn't know how to react to it. Yeah. But not saying that it shouldn't come out, because it should come out, but the longer it's withheld and then finally it does come out, we got a bunch of people that never even question it, never even thought about it. There's a lot of people just naturally, they get afraid of what they can't see or what they don't know. And me as a kid, I thought the same thing. Aliens, hostile. They want to take us over. My mindset on what aliens, whether they'd be peaceful or hostile, they wouldn't be hostile. If they have the technology they do, they'd just eviscerate us.
Immediately.
It wouldn't even
be a war.
Yeah,
like humans like to entertain the idea that like we'd go to war against these things.
No.
Look, if they can travel across the cosmos, they'll fucking vaporize us.
We're wiped out.
We're not going to have shit on
We're
them.
wiped out.
Well, another thing is too, if they tell us now that they had all this in storage,
What do you think?
You know how many people are going to be so mad and it's going to go against the government? It's going to create a whole chaos.
That would give the government motive to not give this information out, because
Exactly.
if they let the public know that they'd been lying to them proactively for years,
I'll be mad. I'm like,
everybody
really?
would be mad, and I think even more importantly, they could potentially be guilty of crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
For withholding information that could save human lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they'd have to atone for that. But here's the deal. I read this book, Unacknowledged, recently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about black operations and black budget stuff. Millions and billions of dollars that's spent on shit that they don't have to tell anybody about. Even standing presidents. They have black budget projects that are approved through through intelligence agencies for terms longer than sitting presidents can actually sit there, for like 12 years. So if you're a president and you don't need to know about this project that started before you get there, you're not going to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. That means that the quote unquote most powerful man in the entire world can't get in access to something that's been going on for 15 or 20 years because he doesn't need to know about it.
Yeah.
And that the money that's being spent, that's American taxpayer dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And in the future, our kids' money that's already being printed and spent on bullshit, but they don't even have to tell us. And like, these are legit verified black budget programs. Like, oh yeah, it's $250 million here that we don't have to tell you about. Don't ask. Mm-hmm. It's for defense. Mm-hmm. And that's built in now for 30, 40 years. So the deal is with these black budget things, everything is so compartmentalized that even, because you got to get somebody to do the work, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to reverse engineer spacecraft, you have to get somebody to do the work. So they'll make you sign all these things that tell you that they're going to fucking kill you or they're going to put you in prison if you do anything, right? They fly you into these places and they make your job very, very tidy and specific so you don't get the whole big picture. Mm-hmm. So there's people working in these black budget programs that literally have no idea what they're doing is part of this bigger nefarious deal.
Didn't they make a documentary?
Yeah, Unacknowledged, yeah.
There was a guy on there that was working. He was a specialist, and he was working on one certain part, but he never knew what the fuck they wanted it for or what it was doing. Like, he just knew. He's like, it definitely was some shit that I've never seen before, and it was, like, completely not saying it's alien, but it was alien to him. Like, he didn't even fucking know what it was being used for. They just wanted him to work on it.
There was also a documentary about a guy that said that he worked for the government and saw these spacecraft, and he made all these claims back in the day, was outed. He was worried. He was scared for his life. I watched a documentary about this guy. I'm going to look him up because me and Bo brought him to my attention.
Doesn't he work in I think I might know who you're talking about. Because now he might work in like a car shop.
I don't know, but he was saying that there was this scanner that when you walked into this facility, you put your hand on the scanner. And this was like back in the day, so it was like high tech shit. Yeah. Now it's not that big a deal. But he said it measured the bones in your hand. So it knew if you had different bones in your hand, that it wouldn't let you into the facility. And that was the first security. And he like explained how they had these metal rods, and he drew a picture and shit, and nobody could find it. And like everybody thought he was like totally full of shit. He got discredited, all this stuff. Years later, these pictures start surfacing, and there is that hand scanner that he drew, exactly the same in this top secret facility that's now shut down and shit. Bob Lazar.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Bob Lazar.
Yeah. Did Rogan have him on his podcast?
Yeah, I think he did.
I think he did.
And here's the thing. So people think I'm an arrogant when I say this. I don't give a shit. In MMA, you can learn to read people's character pretty good, I would say. Mm-hmm. If you've competed at any level in MMA or martial arts, you can look at somebody in the eyes and know to a certain degree if they're full of shit or not, right? They're insecure, whatever. I feel like I can kind of read people like a book just from training and fighting. Mm-hmm. When I watched this dude on this documentary, I didn't see a bit of liar in this guy at all.
Yeah.
I didn't feel a single shred of embellishment. He didn't seem happy about
didn't
this
seem
shit.
crazy.
He seemed bummed out about this
Right.
new life where people doubt him and all this shit, and he knows what he saw. And when I hear him, I hear a guy behaving exactly the way I would expect somebody to behave if they didn't want to have to come out about this, but had to come out about this. And a lot of what he has said has been completely substantiated, and part of this documentary is seeing people trying to drag him through the mud and discredit him and make people believe that he never was schooled and things like that. Why? What are you so scared of?
Right.
You know what I mean? What do you have to hide?
Yeah.
So let's talk about this storming of Area 51 bullshit that just recently happened.
I was just about to ask you guys, what do you think about that?
The first thing that I thought, bro, you can weigh in and see what you thought. This is the first thing I thought. This is really, really fucking stupid. Here's why. A, these people aren't, what are they going to do? How are they going to get in there? Right?
Yeah.
They're not going to storm anything. The first thing I thought is this is probably government funded. The government probably had some guy set this shit up or had some group set this up. Because people are like, oh, why would the government do that? Why wouldn't they do it? Why would they do it? Here's why they would do it. They set up this big fake event, right? They get everybody involved. They get people selling T-shirts, bad T-shirts for $25 a pop. It's great. They have all these people. Let's say they do storm Area 51. How long did the raid take? 2 months?
Yeah.
That's not a raid. A raid is, let's go storm that motherfucker right now.
It's not known about.
Yeah. It's a raid, bro.
Like when Vikings raided, they knew when they saw boats on the horizon. Right. There was no
warning. Yeah. There was no 2-month planning period. Hey guys, let's party. It's pathetic. It makes people look stupid. It trivializes the entire issue is what it does. And let's say that the government did plan this. Let's say the government didn't plan it. Who gives a shit? In 2 months, you're telling me that the government, with all of the resources that has kept these secret for 40 or 50 years, isn't going to find a way to get these things out of the building? You fucking idiot. So then when you show up and you go, yeah, freedom, if you do, which you won't, right? You're going to show up and think it's a party and shit. But if you do that, if we actually storm the gates, there'll be nothing there and the government will go, look, man, we don't want any trouble. See, there's nothing here. Guys, go back home. Keep drinking pop and watching TV.
Yep.
Slowly sleep. Everything's fine here. It's bullshit. And you know what happens after that? People be like, that would never happen. Why? If I was going to keep this shit secret for 50 years, why wouldn't I devise a plan to make you believe it no longer exists? I can erase it from public memory because all you guys give a shit about is food and Trump.
And at this point, everybody knows about Area 51. You think they're going to have it there?
No. But you know what? If they do, they've already bitched us once. We're not going to go storm the gates. We're going to go, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't know about it. Maybe it's better people shouldn't know. Fucking dumb, bro. Like, don't you want to know? Yeah. Don't you want to hold your government accountable for potentially lying to every citizen in the world for the last 50 years?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that important to you because that could change the course of human history? No.
It has to start somewhere. We're at a spot now where withholding the information it is controlling. A lot of people now, we get so caught up in our job. We work our most of us work our 9 to 5. We live for the weekend. We go party it up, and we start off the next week same fucking way. Blinders have been put on. Everybody's in debt. They're stressing about. There's always something to stress about, right? Now imagine if the world collectively, even as a nation, it was more chill. We didn't have to work as much, and we could sit around, smoke weed, take shrooms, and do all that shit and talk. People's curiosity would start opening up, and then people would actually start fighting for answers. Right. There would be collective groups, divide and conquer. People are not only divided, but we're dumbed down. Yeah. We're dumbed down, and a lot of people, when you have these talks, when me and you can have these talks, and I've had these talks with other people, at first they don't want to have them. Well, when I'm like, no, I feel like it's a responsibility of me because you're looking at when people look at me like I'm stupid. And I remember there was my buddy Joe Cason was talking to this girl at this time when I lived in Milwaukee, and she came, and she's very religious. I started talking about aliens. I broke this shit down, And I could see how uncomfortable she was, but she wasn't telling me to stop.
Yeah.
She was, I could see some
Wheels
gears
turning.
were turning, right? So I think collectively as a group, people doing that, and even doing this podcast, that's what our goal is. I think just people in general have to smarten up, and they got to get a spark in their curiosity. If nobody does and nobody gives a shit, nothing will be done. The power mongers that are in power will continue to have power until our planet is fucking dead, which we are killing our planet at the same time because of money and stuff like that. I think that same documentary, you can look him up, I forget his name, but he made that car completely fueled by water.
The dude that ended up dead in the desert.
Did he?
Oh, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Really?
Was this a long time ago?
It was, I want to say maybe 90s, early 2000s.
Oh, I don't know about that.
He made, I swear, no, because he was in this documentary, but he made a car that ran off water, and they shut him down. The government shut, yeah, they shut him down. I didn't even know that was a fucking thing.
Yeah.
And
that's been a thing a couple times.
And that's the thing. There's shit like this that has happened that I feel like I know a lot of my shit. I didn't even fucking know that existed.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's another guy that did something similar, like a long time ago, and just completely disappeared.
Yeah.
Just ended it like he was about to break this technology out on the world on some kind of combustion engine or a steam engine or some shit.
Yeah.
It just disappeared into thin air.
Wow.
And I don't know, because I'm not an engineer and I don't know how this works, but I wouldn't be surprised at all to hear that enormous amounts of wealth weren't willing to silence people, even if it meant killing them. You know what I mean? Because the thing that people don't understand about corrupt power is what they'll justify.
Mm-hmm.
If I make, let's say, $5 billion a year, and out of that $5 billion, a bunch of it goes to war profiteering, or let's say none of it does, but I give $10 million to charity. And the $10 million to charity I give feeds kids in Africa, right? Rice and feeds starving babies, whatever. I'm doing it as a business write-off. I don't give a shit. That's what these companies are saying. Now all of a sudden somebody comes along with a technology that's going to literally destroy my entire business. Mm-hmm. Destroy an entire oil conglomerate worth billions of dollars, and it's going to take away my ability to feed those babies. This guy's just a little piece of shit. I'll have him offed real quick. Mm-hmm. It's not worth it. If he does this, it's dangerous for the world. I'll make sure that this is taken care of.
People will find ways to justify
They will. They will. And people with money can. And, I think people are really naive about this type of corruption. Go, well, people wouldn't do that. No, you wouldn't do that.
Right.
You wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. People that work 9 to 5 usually wouldn't do that. But people that don't do that, people that have inherited generational wealth for the last 3 generations, and they've been brought up to believe that they're supposed to fucking own you, they will do that shit. They'll look at you like a dumb, ingrate primate and have somebody kill you. And when that person refuses, that professional hitman refuses, they'll pay somebody even more to kill that dude and kill you anyway. These people with money, with elite wealth money, like not justly rich, I made a business and I made $1 billion. Yeah. But like people like the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, people like that, I firmly believe, and I could be completely full of shit, but I firmly believe when you have that kind of wealth, you're more likely to go, it's just one guy.
Yeah. Everybody's guilty of it. There are certain times when you have it really good, you want to keep it, right? Not going that drastic, but you're going to do what you have to do to keep it, right? If you have to sell part of your business to a Shark Tank guy to bump it up to make you more money or keep you alive, you'll do it, Not saying that that's corruption, but it does get to a point where when you do have that much money and you have that much power, what you're willing to do, a lot of us can't even put ourselves in that mindset. People are very easily corrupted.
Yeah, and it goes, the quote, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's just the way it is. We've seen it in history, what you're talking about, where good people come into, these gross circumstances where they're drunk with power and they become pieces of shit. Mm-hmm. Very quickly, they now turn into sadists and, murderers and things because they're drunk with power. Yeah. Royalty all through the dark and Middle Ages was full of people drunk with power and just horrible, horrible individuals and human beings. when you give these types of people this kind of power and influence, they are above the law, and they've proven that. Even our own ruling class in America, even senators and House representatives, can vote on military measures that will profit them, that will see the companies that they have ownership in profit. But if Martha Stewart sells shares to her company because she knows that those shares are going to take a big hit and she's going to lose millions of dollars, she's going to go to prison. They literally are capable of doing things that we as American citizens aren't able to do. Yeah. Explain that shit. You know, you're telling me that these aren't the same type of people that aren't going to withhold potentially the greatest technological secrets in the history of mankind? Of course they are. Yeah. They're pieces of shit. They want power. And money, once you get that kind of money, it's not about money anymore. And there's been powerful, rich people that have said this. Once you get so rich, it's not about money. It's about power. It's about how much influence you have over people. It's status. Yeah. It corrupts you. Absolutely. It makes you drunk. Once you're that rich and you don't have to work, and the only thing that you have left, what do you want? Power. Yeah. You want that power to say, what I say goes. And if you have the money to say that on a broad scale, people are in trouble. And people are in trouble right now. You got people like the middle class in America is disappearing or it disappeared. The middle class used to be one income. Who do you guys know that brings in one income and lives like a king? Yeah. No. Who do you guys know that brings in one income working at your local machine shop, right? And they got 6 kids like they did in the 50s they don't. And if they do, they have to live on very, very, very meager means and terms. And that's not just like a lower class. That's everybody. Yeah. There's more and more people now even moving in together as families because it's not even like it's just economically what they have to do, you know? And I think that's kind of the future. But so let's not get too far off base. Yeah. We've processed a lot. It's 1:00 in the morning. We've got to figure out how to do this. But I want to thank Juan for coming. Before we close out, your guys' thoughts on the recent fights. Conor McGregor versus Cowboy ended in 40 seconds, I want to say. Erik, you said that this would happen. You said that it maybe not happen this quick, but you did call it early. Conor coming out, giving Cerrone problems with the southpaw.
Yep. You know what I said before, even if you watch tape on Cowboy, he stands really tall. He doesn't play a high guard. His hands aren't up. They're kind of floating at the chin. But he plots. He plots. He's not really light on his feet. And he's got a long torso. He's just a long frame dude. And I've known a lot of people, Anthony, RDA, stop him with body kicks. Body kicks have been an issue for him before with that southpaw stance, and that was Anthony's game plan going into it because Duke saw that he leaves that body, he plots, he doesn't move a lot. That angle is really easy for him to catch, and knowing that his kick defense isn't the greatest. Even Darren Till knocked him out with a left hand, I think. I'm pretty sure. But it was the same thing. It was that angle. That was my assessment going into the fight. I think the fight was definitely in Conor's favor. Just because not only that, Conor's a master at that angle. That's his game. He loves that shit. He plays the angles. The reason he can throw as hard and as much as he can is because he's always in the right spot. And so I definitely think his footwork was better. It wasn't a body kick, but it was a head kick. It was that southpaw jinx. He got that angle and he clipped him.
Didn't he get him to bite on the cross too? Didn't he get him to lower a hand? Because I think he faked that cross and then he went up with that head.
That's why he came out hot right away. He threw that hard left. The clinch, the shoulder was awesome because I think knowing Cowboy's a slow starter, I think Conor knew he's gonna go. He's just gonna go. And the high kick, it wasn't even a shin. He actually wrapped it with his foot.
Hit him on the jaw, didn't he?
I think so. But he wrapped it with his foot and hit it. And so I picked first, second round. It was going to be Conor. I just think that southpaw, man. I just think southpaw's the jinx for Cowboy. I think his style doesn't quite match up with it. And both those fight, the RDA, the Anthony, and the Darren Till fight, they were all quick. They didn't go long. They jumped on him right away, and that was it. So I mean, I called that. I just think it was a really bad style matchup for Cowboy. And I think everybody was saying Connor had 2 years off, but he didn't take time off. He was always in the gym, and I think Connor's one of those special guys. His confidence is already through the roof. I think when people talk ring rust, I think that's more of a confidence issue.
It is.
We've
talked about that for a long time.
With someone like Connor, I honestly think that 2 years was better for him than anything else.
Yeah, he might train and he might train hard, but he's going to get better and he doesn't have to take all the punishment. So he comes back 2 years later, refreshed, confident, ready to fuck shit up, and he gets the job done.
Yeah.
What does Cowboy do? I mean, because here's my thing on Cowboy. I've gained more and more respect for this guy the longer he's fought. He came back and surprised everybody at heavier weights. People wanted to say that he was going to lose, and he was winning when he was supposed to lose. And he's always been a gamer, always been a tough dude. But he's been through a lot.
Yeah.
And he's been through the WEC, and he's been through the UFC, and he's got a cajillion fights now?
Yeah, man, more than anybody.
And a lot of them
We've seen the ascension of Michael Bisping, right? We've seen a guy that I totally wrote off find his way and wait for his shot and capitalize and kill it and become a champion. Is there a shot for Cowboy to do that in any division?
I think it's really hard. And I as gangsters, because Cerrone's one of the biggest gangsters in the UFC, if not the biggest. There's a lot of talk.
He'll fight anybody anywhere time.
That dude has fought on week's notice, 2 weeks notice. He had 2 fights in 2 weeks. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's truly a gangster. And, you know, my mind was going with Connor in that fight. My heart's going with Cowboy because I like Cowboy. I like what he does for the sport. He's not a shit talker. He does it because he loves to do it. And even his post-fight, he said, I'm not done. I just love this shit. For a Cowboy, man, I want him to do whatever the fuck he wants. He deserves it, you know. If he wants to keep fighting, I still think he'll win a lot of his fights. For being to the top, I almost think he's fought too much. Yeah. Because, you know, I noticed even in his body, because he doesn't only do fighting. He's spilled his guts on a 4-wheeler accident. He's almost died deep sea. You know what I'm saying? He does a lot of shit that's punishment on his body. Yeah. And it just looks like it's finally starting to show.
What about the brain? People are that's my big thing. I really am concerned about my brain.
Yeah. About
the punishment that I took and punishment that you guys still take. Mm-hmm. I don't spar for a reason now. I don't know what I'm gonna, you know, I got concussed quite a few times, and everybody in this room's been concussed plenty of times. We do what we do.
I had one today.
Well, we shouldn't laugh. But, you know,
yeah.
It is what it is. I mean, fighting in the UFC, you know, it's not amateur shit. Like you're getting dinged on, you're getting banged on, even at lower levels. These days, you're getting fucked up. How long do you do it? How long, if you're a Cowboy and you've been through the wars, like he's been through the wars.
Well,
in the gym and in the cage too.
For Cowboy personally, I think it's what makes him happy. Yeah. So, on a personal level, I think he should keep doing it, man. He likes to do it. He's a risk taker. That's what he likes to do. The only thing I change now is I know, you know, he's got a baby boy now, and he like loves that kid more than anything. So it might be time to start thinking about other people, you know. But
would you think he should pick and choose now who he fights, or just go at it?
Well, that's just not his style. He won't do it. He'll fight whoever. I think you know, a couple more, and maybe end on a high note, you know, because the guy's already fought so many UFC fights. Yeah. I don't see anybody breaking that record. Why not? And you know what I'm saying? Because if we include WEC fights, Jesus, I can't even fucking tell you how many fights that guy's had, you know. And I think, you know, and I will say, you know, he's gotten beat up before, he's taken shots, but he's never been knocked out cold. You know, it's never been like a super severe knockout, like a Chuck Liddell, Rashad Evans. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There hasn't been anything like that. And so, I mean, for him, like I said, he's a boy from WEC, so, you know, I'll always like Donald Cerrone. And I think for him, he's an anomaly because that's just where he belongs.
Yeah.
He just loves to do it. So for him, I'd like to see just a couple more fights. But I mean, he's also getting older. He's older than me. I gotta say he's 36, something like that. But 36 for him, how much he's fought, and like I said, all the other shit he does. That being said, I'd like to see him fight a couple more fights, and then that dude already does so much adrenaline junkie shit. He can still do all that shit. You know what I'm saying?
So you got to pick one guy. You guys got to pick one guy at welterweight for Donald Cerrone to fight, and this will be his retirement fight. I mean, it's not obviously he's gonna fight for fucking 100 years, but who's that fight? Who's his retirement fight if you guys get to pick it?
At welterweight?
Yep. You know what? Anything up to middleweight, fuck it. Donald gets to eat 14 steaks and come in at 185. Anybody up to middleweight, who's his retirement
fight? It's hard because 170 is such a big division. I'm trying to think.
Everything's a big division.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of 70 years here. You know, maybe even a battle of the OGs. Maybe like him and Diego.
Oh my fucking god! Are you serious, dude? I was
just
thinking that shit.
Him and Diego Sanchez. I think that would be cool because it's an OG fight. Everybody knows who they are. They've been around forever. They're both good still. You know, but telepathy.
Telepathy. Alien contacts. Yes.
I would like to see him fight Dos Anjos again.
Oh yeah.
Dos Anjos lost his last fight, didn't he? Or did he win?
He did.
He
He fought Kobe. I think that was his last fight.
I think this weekend he's fighting Chiesa.
He is.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yep.
Yeah, and Case is a tough fight too. And RDA's getting up there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right, guys. Well, we're going to call it a wrap. That's Mind Raid episode 5. We've probably got more, but hopefully we've got all of our crazy tinfoil hat theories out there for you. Brother, thanks for coming over. We're hopefully going to record these Mondays coming. Juan, it's great to see you. I'll see you tomorrow morning at the gym.
Yes, sir.
Always good to have you down here, and hopefully someday we'll return the favor and get back to North Carolina. We're pieces of shit. We don't ever return the favor. But thanks, guys, and thanks, guys, for tuning in. This podcast is made possible by Gail and Douglas Koch and the Family Hard Drive. Music courtesy of Mike Chino.